very exciting for us. My name is Lori Dodge. I'm with Public Works. I'm the project manager on this. We've been working on this since last spring, and it's really come quite a long ways. It's the Safety Action Plan for Calaveras. It's going to be a base document that's going to help us apply for some grant funding to get some safety measures put into place in identified areas of fatality accidents and severe injury accidents. And that data was compiled through the CHP and the Sheriff's Office, as well as we had a lot of virtual meetings going on last fall. And so we got a lot of public input with our interactive calendar or interactive map that was on our CSAP webpage, as well as just some public input. So I'm really excited how it's all come together, and we've tried to do things by district. There'll be a a public outreach meeting in each district, and everybody's welcome at any of them, of course. But take a quick moment to just go around the room with our consultants so that you can identify who's who, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm Ruthvich Patel, but go by Rudy. I'm with TJ Kim. We're the prime consultants leading this comprehensive safety action plan. With me, I have Grishma. She's also helping us on this. And with us, we have Melissa and also Jessica. Sarah, sorry. Sarah, sorry. Back here. So all four of us are available for questions. Later on, after we go to the breakout session, we'll talk about the boards we have. So first, I'll start with like a 15-minute presentation. Don't want to bore you guys too much. Hopefully you guys have some coffee. Stay awake, bear with me. So I just want to quickly go through the comprehensive action plan that we started, what we've done to date, so you guys have an idea of where we stand and where we're looking to get out of this public outreach meeting. So a comprehensive safety, so we already did introductions. We have all our folks here today. So today we'll go through the plan, we'll go through the process that we've gone through for the CASP. You'll see me using a lot of acronyms. So one I'll use is the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. So we all refer to it as CASP for short, instead of saying the whole thing. So you'll hear me saying that a lot. Then we'll go through our CASP process, look at the collision data that we've compiled, kind of what we've found. Look at our high injury network, which is the HIN, and the collision profiles. Then the community input. We've done this before virtually. Now we're here in person to get further feedback from you guys. And then proposed safety projects. So based on the data we collected, we came up with some projects to help improve the safety around the county. That's what you're seeing on the 5 different project boards you're seeing behind you. So you can look at them closely and we can get your comments and feedback later on. And then we'll talk about the next steps, how we get to the final comprehensive safety action plan. So starting with, what is a comprehensive safety action plan? What it is a Safe Streets for All program that helps to improve safety at roadways, along all your corridors, and along at intersections. The prioritizing goal of this action plan is to improve safety for human life, recognize traffic deaths and severe injuries are preventable, and try to come up with a proactive solution to prevent them from happening. Design roadways that account for human error. Promote slower speeds, expand our transportation network so it's safer for all modes of travel, not just for vehicular traffic. And in your county, you also have motorcyclists too we have to worry about. Advance the roadway safety, address collision risk proactively. Just because we notice a collision in certain parts of the county does not mean other parts of the county are not susceptible to that. So if we identify collision trends, we want to proactively mitigate those at other parts of the county too, to make sure you have a safe, cohesive county you can drive through. Implement proven and innovative strategies, and then ultimate goal is to eliminate traffic-related fatalities on the roadways. So where we are with the process. So we started this back in April. We've gone through a tedious process of our data collection, which we usually typically for these plans always look at the last 5 years. That's typical for any comprehensive safety action plan that's done for any county, city. We look at the collision trends analysis. The data we collect is also from TIMS and SWITRs. They're all reliable databases that the CHP and all the people that collect traffic collision data input the data into, so we can get an accurate database. From there, we identified high-risk networks, which I'll show you guys which we found. Those are in our next slide. And where we have most of the injury collisions During that process, we reached out to the TAC and the stakeholders virtually. We had virtual meetings to kind of get the initial feedback, what you thought, where your roadways were not safe, and Melissa will talk further on the community outreach we've been doing later on. And then we started developing safety countermeasures. What can we do based on the type of collisions you're seeing and how we can improve the safety of your roadways? Then we had another TAC stakeholder input. And we started integrating that into our plan and start prioritizing improvements and identifying projects. That's what you're seeing again on the boards around here. And I'll walk through each of the projects later in the presentation. And again, we're here at the STAR right now. We're getting your feedback again. We want your thoughts now on these locations and safety projects we've identified. The locations you see here, none of them are set in stone. This is just what the data has shown us. And we want to hear from you if we're missing locations, missing corridors where safety is a concern, but maybe the data hasn't shown it yet. Because that is one thing I want to highlight is just because the collision hasn't happened there, it's not waiting to be happened. So we want to be proactive. And that's where we rely on your feedback. You see these roadways day to day. You understand the challenges you guys face. And hearing from you helps us build a more comprehensive safety action plan. And then from there, we'll go to the draft plan, we'll make it a final plan, get it approved by a board, and eventually adopted. So what did we find out here in the county? We looked at the county, we found 356 fatal or severe injury collisions. The top type of 3 collisions we categorized it was hit objects, overturned, or head-on collisions. You can see the percentages right here. KSI stands for killed or severe injury. Those are the most heavily weighted type of collisions in these action plans. You also have less where like just report of complaint of pain and hit object also, but they're weighted a little bit less because the whole point of this plan is to prevent the fatal and severe injury, so they're weighted a little bit higher. So type of violation category we've noticed also is improper turning, DUI has been a concern, unsafe speeding, as you might guess. And then lighting conditions, we did notice there are about 36% that are happening in your nighttime. And one thing to point out is a lot of your collisions are happening in your roadway segments, which makes sense due to the windy nature of the roadways. People are speeding, turning too fast, going onto the oncoming traffic, motorcyclists driving dangerously. So you have that. You have about 19% are motorcyclists in this area. Then based on that, we kind of identified the roadway segments that we noted had the highest collisions, or the KSI that I just noted. So looking at this category, you have Little John Road that has your, 16 injury collisions, but has 7 KSI, right? While you have Baldwin Street, which has 2 KSI and only 6 injury collisions. Railroad Flat is another one. O'Brien's Ferry Road is a concern. Mountain Ranch Road, Southworth Road, Hogan Dam Road, Pool Station Road, Brunson, and Murphy's Grade Road. And this is just categorizing the high injury. This does not mean we're not looking at all the roadways. We're just helping you identify, like, the data shows these are your problematic corridors, and a little bit more emphasis or attention will be paid here, but it's not like we're not going to look at the rest of the roads. So I just want to make that very clear. And then from there, I'll hand it over to Melissa to go over some outreach items.
Thank you. So we received community feedback in a number of different ways. So we had an interactive map that was on the project website. And we had a project website that was hosted on the county website. A project page on the county website. On the project page, we also had a survey that was online. We had a report a concern tab where people could input text related to their concern. And we had the first round of community meetings. Again, similar to this format where we had one meeting in each of the districts, and those were virtual. So all of the online portals were open for a brief period, closing on November the 15th, 2025. So a lot of that commenced during the summer, so it was open. We received a number of different input from these different formats. So both the community feedback summary and the collision analysis that Rudy presented were used to identify the appropriate safety countermeasures. The current step that we are in right now is this next round of community meetings to make sure, as Rudy said, that we captured all of the issues. So I'm just going to go over some of the results that we found. So for the interactive map, you see a snippet of it to the left. It was a map where you can add a marker. You can zoom into your location of concern. You could input a marker. You could even upload a photo and indicate what your issue was. So we received 60 comments from 25 commenters or people. The main themes were traffic calming and control, pedestrian and bicycle safety, road design and maintenance, school zones, and intersections. We also had a feature where you could look at the comments that other people inputted and like or upvote those comments. So here you see that the top 3 that were upvoted, they included steep grading on, Harbor Road is highly unsafe, paving strongly needed, and reckless driving on Hogan Dam Road, and then recurring accidents on Olive Orchard Road. We also had a survey. So again, we received 52 comments from 45 people. Here was a list of questions and responses. For the first question, where do you live? The majority of commenters noted that they lived in Valley Springs, followed by Murphy's. Most people, for number 2, what is your most traveled to community? Most people were traveling again to Valley Springs or San Andreas. For travel to your most traveled to community, what factors impact your comfort? At 26%, people noted speeding drivers, followed by 24% of people passing. And then for travel within your most traveled community, what factors impact your comfort? Similar issues, 23% were persons speeding, followed by 70% of challenging intersections. And then we have the 2 tables down below. For travel to your most traveled community, what improvements would you like to see? So the top contenders were guardrails at 48%, followed by lighting at 33% and enhanced delineation, and then advanced warning flashing beacons, 33 and 31%. And for travel within your most traveled to community, what improvements would you like to see? Most people desired lighting at 47%. We received 1 comment from the Report a Concern tab. The commenter noted an issue on Highway 4 at Horseshoe Drive Lane in Copperopolis. This commenter noted speeds of 60 miles per hour and passing on the shoulder, which created conflicts and recurring accidents at that location. The commenter suggested installing turn lanes on both sides of Highway 4 at that location and diamond entrances. And again, we had that first round of community meetings, 5 meetings during the summer 2025. Main themes were traffic calming and control, speed control infrastructure. Infrastructure improvements that were suggested included widening roads, turnouts, and guardrails, which was supported by the data that we saw earlier. Safety and education as well. For community feedback, the main issues that were noted were speeding, DUIs, distracted driving, illegal passing, and poor road improvements. And the commenters noted the improvements such as street lights at intersections would reduce last-minute braking and accidents. Now I'll let Rudy go through the rest.
All right. So I just want to now quickly go through the safety projects. I'll kind of try to go through them relatively quickly because we can then, after this presentation, just walk next to each one and I'll answer all the questions you have there. So we pretty much identified 5 projects. 6 is more of a general educational type project, and I'll get to that. The county's already put in efforts for that, so wanted to let everyone know. So the first project we identified is a corridor safety improvement project. So this is due to the heavy amount of collisions we saw, 214 injury collisions, and 63 of them were killed and severe injury types. So we definitely want to improve your roadways. How do we do that, right? So FHWA helps us identify, based on the collision types, hit object, overturn, improper turning, DUI, what countermeasures can we do? One of the couple of the improvements seem obvious are adding those longitudinal rumble strips. You may already see them on some roadways. Some are lacking. They really help drivers throughout the day or at nighttime when they're dozing off to stay in your lane. They can be either on the edge line next to the white stripe, or they can be in the center line, so it helps prevent people from dozing, going onto the oncoming traffic and getting into those head-on collisions or hit object type collisions. Obviously, install advanced warning signs and improve the signage along the corridor, especially during your curves. Make sure you have adequate chevron stripes, especially on the sharper curves, with advanced warning signs to let people know, hey, take this turn at a slower speed. Don't go at the posted speed limit. So improving that kind of infrastructure helps overall safety. Then installing radar speed feedback signs. These will be a little more focused when you get into towns and areas of like more pedestrian and urban centers within the county, because these you wouldn't put them in the middle of the rural roadway. You'd put them as you get closer to towns, because you want folks to start slowing down, understanding like, hey, I'm coming from an empty road. Now there's going to be people, cross traffic. So those will be placed more strategically to help get drivers to slow down as they come into your towns. So that's overall picture of Corridor Project 1. This kind of maps out a lot of the locations we've identified. You'll see some of the locations were locations along that high engineering network I showed you earlier. So you guys might not be able to read this table, but it's also there when you go to Project 1. You'll see this list. Again, by all means, this is not the final list. If you notice segments or areas in here that you think are a concern, bring it to our attention. I can take that information back, lay it over our collision data and see, yes, it supports it, or see what we can do to add it into this plan, right? That's the goal of this. We want to hear from you as well, not just what the data is showing us. Project 2, install turnouts. This project is also kind of tied into the previous project of improving your overall corridor safety. Turnouts help in multitudinal ways. A lot of times you have long, windy roads with cars that are generally driving slower, so people are going to aggressively try to pass them, whether you have a passing zone or you don't have a passing zone. So adding strategic turnouts throughout the corridor helps with that, to let people turn out, then all the rest of the traffic behind them can go safely, and then they continue with their. And this also helps the fire department during their emergency responses. When you have an emergency evacuation drill or anything like that, the turnouts help in getting cars out of the way, or having the emergency vehicles access those to get around queues of traffic and whatnot. So again, here we've identified corridors and segments. This is kind of also tied to where you have your emergency evacuation routes identified within the county. So we want to make sure those roadways are enhanced and have adequate turnouts. Next project, Project 3, is unsignalized intersection improvements with signs and beacons. This project focuses on enhancing your unsignalized intersections by enhancing the signage at them. A lot of time you might be approaching an intersection and you might not know there's cross traffic coming to it, or if you're coming from a minor street, you don't know that the other traffic direction is not stopping. So adding simple signs like cross traffic does not stop under your stop sign to alert drivers like, hey, you're the one who has to look before you go, right? So adding little safety features like that to your signs, adding advanced warning signs, letting people know, hey, there's cross traffic ahead, so be lookout for people come from minor streets, especially in areas where you don't have proper visibility at nighttime, right? So signs like that really help. And then to further augment that, where you already may have signs, we can add flashing beacons. The flashing beacons further enhance the sign to bring attention to the sign, to the upcoming stop up ahead, or any cross traffic patterns coming up ahead. So these type of countermeasures also help in reducing your collisions. One thing I forgot to mention in the previous slide, you probably keep seeing that CRF value. So CRF stands for crash reduction factor. Based on the FHWA, when you apply these countermeasures, you're going to see about a 20% reduction in these type of collisions that you're seeing here, which would be like hit object, overturn, improper turning, unsafe speeds, right? And this would apply to the next slide when I get to it. Again, these are the locations we identified for Project 3. By no means this is the only areas. There would be some. Just because the collision has not happened there doesn't mean there may not happen. So if you know areas that you think are of a concern, bring it to our attention. We'll add it to our list and evaluate it to ensure all unsignalized areas are getting the proper safety treatment. Next one, this is unsignalized intersection improvements. The big difference from the last one to this one is more related to your striping. This is more about what's on the ground, because as you guys may see, you have faded striping, stop signs are not visible, or maybe the turn lane markings not visible, or your approach stripes are not clear. So this project would help you add those simple little things like stop ahead payment legend, yield ahead, add high visibility crosswalk where you have intersections with a lot of pedestrian traffic, so it makes the crosswalk more illuminated for people to see that, hey, I'm approaching it, I have to be careful. Install pedestrian warning signs. Those are really helpful in school zones or near where people are going to be crossing and you have a lot of pet activity. So these kind of improvements will help that, and this would result in around 25% crash reduction. Again, map of the locations we've identified. We want to hear from you. If you know any other locations we should look at, if you validate some of these locations, that makes us feel good that at least the data is supporting your concerns also, so that's important for us. Last one, street lighting improvements. This is another big one, as the data, the community feedback showed and also the collision trend showed. We want to get street lights added, but we have to be mindful we're in a county, it's super large. We can't just go add a street light in the middle of a rural area. Where are you going to get the power from, right? So our street light infrastructure improvements would be localized around areas you have power, you have residential housing, or you have some kind of infrastructure in place, so you're not running long lines to put in the infrastructure just to put one street light. It's not cost efficient, right? And it's hard to get grant funding to put in street lights for just one location. You rather prioritize areas where you're in the town, maybe there's some dark areas within that town, you want to light them up, make that part of the town a little bit safer. So that's kind of the goal with installing the street lights. Again, here we've just identified areas where we saw nighttime collisions and where we think some street lighting would help. Again, if you have further feedback on that, we'd appreciate it. Project 6, this is the alcohol awareness program. This is more of an educational element to a comprehensive safety action plan, because not only engineering solutions is a way of reducing collisions, educating the public is also very important, right? So first of all, I want to congratulate your district, because you guys don't have any DUI issues apparently, because the collision data clearly shows all the other districts have a lot of your DUI collisions. So you guys are good in that sense. And I was surprised too. I went and looked at the data. I'm like, really? Wow. So, so whatever you guys are doing, keep it up. Or leave it to the other districts, I don't know. But, important things about alcohol awareness program is we really want to educate folks to be careful about drinking and driving. That's a very bad way to lose people, lose family members, and we want to focus on programs that help with this. And I know the county is already working on improvements for that. They secured through the Office of Traffic Safety, the county has already secured some funds for their public health department. They received $143,000, where they'll be using that money to improve your infrastructure proactively for roadway users. And this will vary and be structured towards PEDS, bikes, programs, which would improve traffic safety education, car seat education, better bicycling, better community bike rodeos, teen traffic safety courses, certified car seat, and a partnership with local reinforcement to improve safety. And so this is just the county's effort of working at improving your safety already. And a lot of what the projects I've identified, they also tie into grant funding, because that is also one of the goals of this comprehensive safety action plan, is we have a SS4A grant funding opportunity coming up later this year, where we want to get this plan completed, adopted, and the projects identified here, we can apply for grants. Then the county would get monies then to implement a lot of these projects. So that's kind of the idea behind this. That's why we want to hear from you. And this OTS grant is just one of the examples of where we get the money to implement a lot of these safety improvements that we're explaining to you here today. And then with that, we have some next steps that we'll do. So right now we're at the integrate community feedback part of our, on this slide, is where we're trying to gather as much information from you all, bring it back to us, refine our project locations, refine our projects if we miss something, and then perform any field visits to kind of go look at some of the site conditions, especially the more dangerous ones. So we also know better, not just looking at street view, at least go out there and see it ourselves. And then after that, we're going to prioritize and finalize the safety projects. So once we do that, we'll identify each of the projects. It might not be just 5. There might be like a 6th one, depending on how we gather all the data finally. That'll roll into a draft and final comprehensive safety action plan. That'll be submitted and then approved by the council, and then it will be adopted by the county. And then with that, we will go to our discussion at the exhibits, and then we'll answer questions you have at that time. So thank you for listening to me. Hopefully I didn't put you all to sleep.
Hey, Rudy,
Yes, sir.
I noticed there wasn't a lot of Caltrans. Are you guys working with Caltrans?
No, so this project focuses primarily on county roadways. The whole process is through improving county roadways. Caltrans roadways, they use their own program and methodology. to do their improvements. So we don't get involved with that. If we have recommendations from our county roads that intersect with Caltrans, we'll pass them along to them. But yeah, this project primarily focuses on county roadways. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Are those state grants or federal grants?
They're state and federal. Yeah, they vary based on different.
Federal.
Yeah, so we have different opportunities. There's a lot of different grants. They vary by the nature of the project you're developing. And we can go after like highway safety improvement projects, CSAP grants, you might have heard of those. They can be both state level funding and federal level funding depending on the size of your projects. So, and then there's a bunch of other grants. We'll identify that as our projects finalize in the updated comprehensive safety action plan. You'll see like based on these projects, you can go after X, Y, and Z grant opportunities. And then we'll work with the county to help them if they need, prepare those grants to submit and get the funding to build these infrastructure improvements. So yeah.
Was the county involved in the four-way stop here in Montgomery Hill? Or was it Caltrans?
That's
It was
Caltrans.
Caltrans,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, if it was on the freeway intersection, that was Caltrans.
Because people are still going through it.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, that's a Caltrans issue, which I cannot answer.
Because we were thinking more like, we're staying on the road, whatever.
Right, yeah. So yeah, now if you guys now want, we can walk to each of the boards. Where folks have questions, you have myself, Grishma, Lori here to answer any questions you have. I'll write down, scribble.